Federal Liberals are scamming Canadians with a fake firearm advisory committee. Imagine if the Liberal government formed a vehicle advisory committee to help members of Parliament learn what laws are necessary for the safe operation of vehicles. You'd think such a committee would be composed of people experienced in vehicle design, such as engineers trained to work with metal, plastic, and glass, and civil engineers who design roads so that vehicles, pedestrians, and cyclists can all move safely. That vehicle advisory committee would also include daily users of vehicles, like professional delivery drivers who actually understand how vehicles are used because they've driven hundreds of thousands of kilometers. Professional drivers know which laws are necessary for safe vehicle operation and which laws are passed merely for show to make it look like the government is doing something. The Vehicle Advisory Committee would also contain some very experienced amateur drivers with excellent driving records who could intelligently relate the concerns of amateur drivers to the government. Such a balance of experience would make a very good Vehicle Advisory Committee. Would you agree? Now imagine if instead of appointing those who know about vehicles and their use, the government stacked the committee with people who had been injured in crashes and who were already so afraid of cars they refused to drive. Then they added some folks who were so afraid of vehicles that the only way they could travel is blindfolded and placed in the back seat. Of course, they'd have to include a First Nations person because of his or her race, not caring if that person had ever driven more than a video game. As a token gesture pretending to take the concerns of real drivers seriously, the government would appoint one soapbox derby driver to the committee. It's true that soapbox racers have neither engines nor glass, nor can they be driven on roads with real vehicles. But they have 4 wheels, a steering wheel, and are sort of shaped like cars, which is close enough for government work. How can people who know nothing about roads and vehicles accurately recommend laws about vehicles? How can those who are terrified of vehicles have rational discussions about something they're afraid of? They cannot. Well, that's exactly the type of people this Liberal government has put on the Firearms Advisory Committee. 5 committee members are anti-firearm activists. They're members of the notorious Coalition for Gun Control, the tax-funded lobby that twists words and outright lies to you in their attempts to get you to believe all law-abiding firearms owners are dangerous, which is ridiculously untrue. The fact is, law-abiding firearms owners are statistically the safest segment of society, a fact upheld by the insurance industry. To show you how biased this Firearms Advisory Committee is, the Vice Chairperson actively campaigns against private ownership of firearms as a spokesperson for an anti-gun group. She is touted as a shooting survivor. We're sorry anyone is ever shot, and we extend our sympathy to the committee vice chair. Being shot, however, is no qualification for recommending firearm laws, just as being injured in a car crash does not qualify one to recommend vehicle laws. It gets worse. This gun-hating vice chairperson refuses to learn anything about firearms, and she does so with the Liberal politician's approval. Ralph Goodale, the Liberal Minister for Public Safety, said that requiring committee members to obtain the same firearm training as every other law-abiding Canadian would be too triggering for Committee Vice Chair Natalie Provost to learn about the firearms she wants to ban. That's a politician telling you his mind is already made up, and he's stacked the committee to ensure it gives him the outcome he wants. One committee member is an Olympic air pistol competitor. We admire Olympic athletes for their dedication. Air pistols are great fun, but they are not firearms, not even under the ridiculously over-strict Canadian regulations. One committee member is a member of Ducks Unlimited, a conservation group that agrees with all gun control legislation that doesn't affect shotguns used by duck hunters. Banning certain rifles and handguns is fine with them. One committee member is a Native, First Nation, Indigenous, whatever they identify as these days. Apologies if we've misidentified. Members of that special race receive more rights and benefits than other races of Canadian residents. Nobody has said if this person has ever seen a firearm. She is on the committee strictly because of her race. And of course there's a police chief on the committee. This chief also supports the Coalition for Gun Control. He thinks police should be the only ones with guns because he's afraid of anyone else having a gun. Would you put someone who thought only police should have cars on a vehicle advisory committee? No, that wouldn't be fair because he's already made up his mind. Who is tasked with enforcing the Liberals' new firearm bans? Oh, right, men with guns, police. And there it is. The Firearms Advisory Committee is not meant to be fair. It's comprised of those who dislike and are afraid of firearms, except for 2 or maybe 3. It's that way precisely because the governing Liberals want a guaranteed outcome. Now they can claim they listen to the public. Except the only public they've listened to are those who tell them exactly what they want to hear. That's not public consultation, that's rigging the jury to get the outcome they want. The last time the Liberals passed useless laws and enacted unnecessary legislation that instantly turned 7 million law-abiding Canadians into criminals, it cost you and your fellow taxpayers over $2 billion. $2 billion of your dollars that went to contractors who'd contributed to the Liberal Party. Could you have spent that $2 billion better than handing it over to Liberal Party donors? Of course you could. But you don't have that chance because the money's all gone. They fooled you last time. Now this time, the guy whose only qualifications for the highest elected office in the land are a famous name, nice hair, and cute socks, thinks he can fool you into believing he's listening to your concerns and playing fair. Yet he is not listening to you, and he's not playing fair. He and his Minister of Public Safety have rigged the Firearms Advisory Committee to get the outcome they want. He is deliberately fooling Canadians. Has he fooled you? Let them know you're smarter than they think you are. Tell them you're not fooled. Click the links below. Call the numbers. Tell them you're onto their scam, that you want them to comprise a fair and honest committee instead of their unfair and dishonest one.